Hello there. I want to welcome you back to the Manifestation Podcast. I am Peggy McColl. For this segment, I want to talk to you about what the hidden secrets are that publishers know that authors need to know. Many times I have authors come to me, or soon to be authors or want to be authors, and they have a desire to write a book but get a publisher. And they'll ask me questions. They'll either join the complete author program or they'll send an email into support and they'll say, could Peggy please give me some guidance on getting a publisher? But what they don't know is what I'm going to cover off in this podcast. What they don't understand is that every author, regardless of whether you have a publisher or not, needs to understand marketing. And it is the author's responsibility to do the marketing for their books. Publishers are mostly printers. So what's the advantage then, Peggy, to having a publisher? Well, it depends. It depends on the publisher. But what I want you to know in this podcast is very valuable information that every single author needs to know before you even start to pursue a publisher. So I will talk in a moment about the advantages and the challenges to either self-publishing or publishing. But what I want to cover off first is what you need to know about working with a publisher. If you do want to get a publisher, you first need to secure a literary agent. What does a literary agent do? Well, a literary agent is designed to sell your book idea to a publishing house. They are a sales agent and they earn money based on what you as an author will earn from a publisher. Therefore, if a publisher is going to give an advance, then the literary agent typically earns 15% of whatever you're going to earn for advances and for royalty payments. So if your book is published with a publishing house and that book is released to the world and you start selling many copies and you're earning money, then you're going to find that the royalties are sent from the publishing house twice a year to the literary agent, and the literary agent takes their 15% and you get the balance. However, with foreign rights, like your book being published in another language, if or when your book is published in another language, literary agent usually keeps 20 or 25% of what you receive from foreign rights publishers. So you get the balance of that. Plus, when you have a contract with a publishing house, depending on the contract, but I'll just give you a general idea. Let's say a publisher is going to release your book in a format of trade paperback, soft cover, as they call it. You have the potential to earn somewhere around 7% for the sale of every single book. So let's use a standard price of a book. Let's say a book is $14.95, which is a standard price for a trade paperback book. If you're going to earn 7% of that, that means you're going to earn $1.04 or $1.05 for every book sold. All right. Now let's go to the side of self-publishing. When you self-publish your book, depending on how you do it, but let's say you go through Kindle Direct Publishing and you release your book through you're self-publishing it, you put it through Kindle Direct, you're going to earn about 45% or 55%, depending on the format, from the sale of your book. So if your book is $14.95, and let's just go with 45% as an example, times 45%, you're going to earn $6.73. Big difference, right? Of course, it's a big difference. But the publishers are expecting that the author is going to do the marketing of the book. They're expecting that. And as a result, if you're going to pursue getting a literary agent and then have that literary agent secure a publisher, you must complete something called a book proposal. What's a book proposal? A book proposal is part of what I teach. By the way, all of this I teach in the Complete Author program. You can find out more about that by going to thecompleteauthorprogram.com. Okay, so just keep that in mind, because yes, we're covering this off in this podcast, but it's a lot of information. And I know this information because I've been on both sides of publishing. I have 19 books. I have several of them with publishing houses, some of the biggest in the world. And I've self-published many, many, many of my books. And my 19th book, which is my most recent book, is a book that I've chosen to self-publish. Why? Because of essentially what I'm telling you right here, right now. Okay. So a book proposal, and I've created them before because I've sold, I've sold the rights to my book to publishing houses with my literary agent. And I recall taking a long time to write up a book proposal. But a book proposal is a valuable thing to do. Why? Because it allows you to create a proposal. And a proposal, think about the word, right? You're trying to sell something. So it has an overview of the book, has a table of contents, would have some sample writing, like a sample chapter. And then you would have marketing plans, your marketing strategy, your media strategy as well, some endorsements about you, really validating you as an author, why you're the perfect person to write that book, how your book compares to some of the classics or the great books that are already out there in the world, that kind of thing. And that can take a considerable amount of time. I have found that it has taken me almost as long to write a book proposal as it has to write a book. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what are you really getting, right? Even when you're working with a publisher, this is also something every author needs to know. When you're working with a publisher, they expect you, if you've signed a contract with them where they're going to publish your book, they expect you to provide an edited copy of your book, a professionally edited copy of your book. All right. So you still have to invest in an editor to complete your book. Yes, the publisher is going to review it. They're going to have it go through their editorial department, but still they're expecting an edited book. Also, the publisher is going to create the cover for your book. They'll do the layout and the design of the interior, and they'll put it into what's called distribution. But you know something? You can get covers done for relatively little amounts of money. You can get the interior and layout design done as well. And you can get distribution set up as well. So no longer are you restricted to what you can do. Yes, it might cost you a little bit more upfront to do it, to get your book ready to go to be released to the world as you're self-publishing it, but the return is far greater. Plus, I want you to really hear this. It is incredibly challenging to get a publisher. Very challenging. They are looking for the following. They're looking for an author who has a great book idea. They're also looking for an author who has a well thought out marketing strategy that they believe is going to work. They're also looking for an author that has minimum of 1 million followers or 1 million subscribers on their email list. The bigger the exposure for that author already, in other words, the author has demonstrated that they already have a very strong presence in the world, that they're speaking on platforms, that they've got followers, that they have subscribers, that they really are already known in the world. If a publisher sees that, then they're clamoring to get that author to sign a contract. However, think about this. If you're going to be earning more money, if you're going to be earning more and you can get the same distribution, why would you even want a publisher? Now, I understand there's people out there who simply want a publisher. They want to be able to say, McGraw-Hill published my book, as they did for my book, Darn Easy. Or to say, Hay House published 4 of my books, which they did for 4 of my books. And yes, it's credibility. Yes, it absolutely is credibility. But most publishers are not going to be doing any promotion for you. They're not going to be doing any publicity. They don't send your promotion out for your book to their entire database either, because they just don't do that. That's not what they do. Now, there are some publishers that definitely do more for their authors. Who are those publishers? They're publishers like Hay House. And as I said, I have 4 of my books published with Hay House. Now, Hay House used to do a lot of live events. And as an author with Hay House, they would have me speak at their events. I love being part of the Hay House family. It was wonderful to be a part of the Hay House family. Also, Hay House already had established relationships with many foreign rights publishers. And as a result, it helped get my books published into other languages. However, I remember one time going to an event in New York City. It's an event that's called Book Expo America. And it was an annual event for anyone in the book industry. And so one year I went down to this event and I met with the woman who was located in London, England, and she was in charge of securing foreign rights publishing deals for Hay House Books. And so when I met her, I asked her, I said, I just released your Destiny Switch, which put it on the New York Times bestseller list the week I released that book. It was published by Hay House. And I asked this woman, I said, have you received any inquiries for any foreign rights deals for your Destiny Switch? And she said, I've already received 8 within the first week of the launch. I said, wow, that's amazing. I said, how did that happen? And she said, duh, it's because of all the marketing you are doing. You brought the awareness to the industry. You promoted your book all over the world, and therefore foreign rights publishers saw it. Plus, my book went right up to the top of the charts, number 2 in the world, right behind Harry Potter. That gets visibility. And also I earned my right onto the New York Times bestseller list. That also got visibility. And therefore, all these foreign rights publishers, now, as far as I know, that book is translated, your Destiny Switch is translated into over 30 languages. Now, that happened with a publisher, yes. But could that have happened with a self-published book? Absolutely. I have self-published many books, as I've mentioned. And as a result of that, I've had foreign rights publishers reach out to me. Now, what I personally love about self-publishing, now don't get me wrong, I do love working with a publisher as well. But what I personally love about self-publishing my books is the amount of money that you're going to earn, because you're going to be doing the marketing anyways, as I teach in the Complete Author program. But also, when you self-publish your book, you have the opportunity to make changes. You can change the cover, you could change the title, you could change the content, you could take it out of print if you want, you can do whatever you want. Why? Because you own the rights to it. You see, when you work with a publisher, what you're actually doing is you're selling the rights to your book. You're selling the rights, you're giving the rights to someone else in order to publish your book. And then after that contract is signed, and you're now in a contract, in an agreement with a publishing house, you have to deliver. You have to deliver what you've agreed to. So if the book has a title already or a name, well, they have the right to change that if they want to. Let's say you submit your manuscript to the publishing house and they accept your manuscript, but yet they decide, it goes through their editorial team and they decide that they want it changed. You have to make those changes. I have one client who I've had worked with thousands of authors, by the way, but I have this one particular client. I remember this, where he had written his book and managed to secure a publishing deal with a publishing house. And that publishing house basically went through his book and just decimated it. I mean, they just removed this and changed that and asked him to take out this and rewrite another section. And it took him months of rewriting in order to get the book the way that that publishing house wanted it. And I know it was a real challenging and a frustrating experience for this individual author. At the end of the day, yes, very likely they had a better quality book, and that of course can be an advantage as well. So if you think about the publishing route or the self-publishing route, there are definite challenges and advantages to each one. But you have to decide which one is really the one that you want to work with. And as I said, if you are already someone who's out there in the world and you have a massive following, over 1 million people, you're already credible, you're a professional speaker, you've got people following you, millions of people following you, you're well known on YouTube perhaps, that would definitely get the attention of a publishing house. However, if you don't have a presence online, or you do, but it's small and maybe you have a few thousand people that are following you or a few hundred, that is going to turn off a publisher. Now, let me add one more thing before we wrap up this podcast. Something else that you can do, and I've done this as well, is you could self-publish your book, bring it out to the world, start to market it, and then sell the rights to a publisher after the fact. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, you'd probably only want to do that for the credibility factor of saying such and such bought the rights to my book. Plus, they're going to set it up in their distribution as well. And they may do some promotion for it. So, and it's going to be on that publisher's website. So you might get more exposure that way. I did that with a book that I wrote way back in 2002, a book originally called On Being a Dog with a Bone. And I self-published the book. Now, at the time, I printed 3,000 copies of that book. You don't have to print any copies nowadays. Why? Because there's print on demand. It's so easy to do. By the way, if you want more about all of what I'm talking about, the Complete Author Program's name gives you a clue. It's everything you need to know to be a successful author, okay? So I suggest that you check out the Complete Author Program. And so if you decide, okay, well, I'm going to bring a book out to the world and I'm going to launch it, I'm going to make it a bestseller, and then I'll sell the rights. Yeah, you could do that if you wanted to. Definitely something that you have an option of doing. There's no more or much less restriction when you self-publish a book nowadays. You can even get your books into bookstores, providing that your book is out in the world selling. So you bring your book out to the world, self-published, you sell lots and lots of copies of it. And then if people are really desiring to have your book, they're going to go into bookstores and ask for it. And depending on the distribution that you choose, when you self-publish your book, they'll be able to order your book and have a copy sent to the store. Plus, let's say you self-publish and your book becomes a huge success, then what happens is the bookstores are going to want to carry quantity of your books in their bookstores as well. So there are many authors that have created success in many different ways, from self-publishing and from publishing. And of course, I believe it's important for every author to really understand the industry, what's happening in the industry, how the industry is evolving and changing, because it's so easy nowadays to self-publish a book, and also fast. That's something else I love about self-publishing, is the speed to get a book to market. I've actually written books and within days had them up and available online for sale. And then within days made it an international bestseller. So when you know what's possible and when you know what you can do, as I guide people through in the Complete Author Program, man, there is no limit to what you could create as far as success as an author is concerned. But I think it's important to really understand if you're getting into an industry, and this is what happened for me. I decided to write a book back in 2002. And I didn't know anything about the industry, but now it's become my life. It's where I live. 19 books later, self-published, published, books in foreign rights languages, sold in countries all over the world, selling books from my website, selling books from Amazon and all the other Amazon websites. My books being converted into audio format, my books being converted into large print editions. And now my 19th book is being adapted and written into a screenplay or to be made into a movie. So I really have a really good understanding about this industry. And why is that valuable to you? Because it can shave off years of time and save you thousands and thousands of dollars potentially. Because when I first got into being an author, I didn't know this. I didn't understand this. I didn't have the understanding. But after all these years, I now understand what it takes to really succeed as an author, whether you're published with a publishing house or whether you choose to self-publish your book. But either way, you definitely have options. So if you've been thinking about becoming an author, or you would love to be a successful, prosperous author who's really making an impact in the world, well, you can definitely do that. And I can help you guide the way to that outcome, or whatever outcome you're looking to accomplish in your life. So that's a wrap for this podcast. It's always a pleasure to serve you. If you love our podcast, please share them with others and leave us a 5-star review. It's always a pleasure to be here to serve you and to give you guidance.